Hey guys, this is Bruce, and welcome to another episode. Is this thing on? Testing, test. Oh my god, no sound. Testing, test. All right, let's make sure that sound is working here. Okay, this is Bruce, and we are doing another episode live of incident response. And actually, I don't even know if my sound is working right now, but I'm just gonna go. All right, so here we go. So we've been talking about risk incident response, and yesterday, just to recap, what we talked about was, as a whole, what is this all about? And what I did was I broke down the preparation, the detect, the contain, and the post-incident activities. And the way that I explained it was in layman's terms. I said that if you're in the preparation phase, it's kind of like you're a end-world doomsday prepper. Like you have to have everything in place before anything happens, but you're anticipating something bad happening. Because if you're in an organization, something bad will happen. It's just a matter of time. You got to be ready for it. And then I talked about detect and analysis. This is where the organization is actively looking for incidents within their organization. Actively looking. This is where you get like things like a SOC. Like when a larger organization have very important information, normally are very important systems, they'll have like a security operations center that is actively looking for threats and things like that. Threats, not just threats, like incidents. It could be a security incident where classified is leaked to unclassified. There's many different examples of incidents that could happen within your environment. It's security incidents typically. And then I talked about eradication, recovery, and containment. And this is, I would equate this to like if you had first responders. First responders, they have many different disciplines. They have people who put out fires. They have people who treat illnesses. So you have to be ready to recover from any kind of issue. Like it could be an outbreak in your organization where you have a bunch of malware that breaks out within your network, or it could be a huge, massive leak of information that's out there that got mass emailed, like it's classified and it's mass emailed on unclassified networks, stuff like that, where you have to remove that incident from the environment, and then you have to recover. Like how do we recover? So you need a response team for that, and you have to have strategies for each one of those situations. Then we talked about post-incident, like what happens after the incident is done. What do you do? What are the lessons learned? Did we collect the data? What can we extract from all the evidence that we collected? So now we're going to talk about the actual controls. There's 10 IR controls that kind of walk your organization through everything we just talked about. It's really important to understand these steps because when you actually dive into the controls themselves, they're prepping you for having the organization have a complete incident response lifecycle and all of the bits and pieces and parts that make a complete incident response plan. And so one of the very first things that you have to have is a policy. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So what does the policy address? An incident response policy and procedure. The organization is going to develop this response policy. It's going to address all the relevant IR controls. That means you got to have incident handling, incident monitoring, incident reporting. All of that stuff will be addressed in the policy and procedures. It's also going to send out this information, the policies and the procedures, to all the applicable people that need to know. So all the roles need to know. It's also going to have a breakdown of the purpose, the roles, the responsibilities of everyone who's all the stakeholders in the incident response policy. So what I want to do is show you an example of a real incident response plan. Let me just see if I can grab one real quick. An actual incident response plan that is out there in the world. Now I have a template for you too, and we'll walk through that one a little bit. But what I wanted to show you was the actual, let me see if I can find it. An actual incident response plan. I do have one. Bear with me real quick. Yeah, here it is right here. Yep, there it is. So this is an actual computer security incident response plan. And there's many different iterations of this, right? So your organization is going to have one that looks completely different from this one. They might call it a policy. They might call it a security incident policy, or just an incident response policy, or an IR plan, an IR policy. There's many different iterations of this. So it's going to look different. There's no one size fits all policy. Depends on your organization and what your organization does. But here's a breakout. You could see that they're addressing each one of the incident response phases right away. So the plan is going through preparation, detection, containment, investigation. Now this is more of a plan, an overarching plan, which is good. It has the purpose, the scope, the maintenance, the authority. These are all things that go into a policy, right? So you could actually use this just like a policy, relationship to other policies. It's tying into other policies, which tie into other laws that you need to address for your organization. Now, this is for a college, I believe, Carnegie Mellon. So Carnegie Mellon is addressing protection of specific types of information, the roles, incident handler roles. This is the kinds of stuff that you want to have in an incident response policy or an incident response plan. They're breaking down the methodologies. So if you had to develop this as a system security person, normally this is something this is a very important aspect of your organization. So this wouldn't be something that you would do by yourself. This would definitely be a team effort. And normally you'd have stakeholders who would be involved with this from start to finish, who would help to develop this. You would actually just be one of the people in the team. Seldom is this thing going to be done alone, because there's just a lot of stuff, and this is super important to the organization. So right away, you have things like who's it prepared by. Okay, let me see if I can get to the actual meat of this thing. Yeah, look at this. See how it breaks out the purpose? And it's looking at regulations, laws, a system description, if you have it specifically for certain systems, incident response teams, personnel. It's going to each one of the phases, right? Detection, analysis, incident analysis, containment. So it's going through all the phases. That's why it's really important to, first of all, if you had to do this for your organization, understand the phases, and then you'd ask yourself, if you're an information system security officer, okay, here are the phases. Is my organization meeting each one of these phases, right? And if they have one in place, are they meeting each one of the phases? Do they have preparation? Do they have detection and analysis? Do they have incident analysis? Do they have a recovery? All that stuff. Containment. Do they have post-incident? Do they have tracking? All that stuff is what you want to make sure that your organization has. And if they don't have it, all you'll do is just point it out. Hey, I noticed we don't have containment and eradication. At my last yard, we had a virus that broke out, and we didn't have containment and eradication, and it was a nightmare. We didn't have that in place. So you would just address this, and you normally want to put this in writing. It's really important to get it in writing for your organization. All right, so let's go through this a little bit further. It has some filler information that you could use. This is a great downloadable. So what I'll do if I have to write something from scratch is I'll get a document like this just to kind of get the bare bones, and I'll get the framework done, ready to go. That way I know, like, it acts as like a guide of what I need to put in place in the document if I have to write it from scratch. I've never written an incident response plan from scratch that I know of. I've helped to develop them further, but I have written policies by myself, and I'm telling you, like, this is what I do. I'll grab like all the bare bones and I'll start filling it out. And then if they have like their own template, which organizations usually do, especially larger ones, I'll take that. I'll take their template and I'll use that one and use some of the bare bones stuff that they have here and these NIST type documents and put that in there. And that helps out a lot, because then I'm not missing anything for that. So that is kind of what you do for policy and procedures. And this is going to just be a short one, guys. If you are interested in this type of stuff, if you're interested in interpretation of the security controls, you can go to ConvoCourses.com and get a lot more information, a breakdown of what to actually do for this, for each one of the security controls. Here's ConvoCourses right here. I've got a breakdown of how to actually become an information system security officer. What work do you do? Like, from the perspective of somebody who's been doing this for 20 years, somebody who's been in this industry for a long time, I'm telling you what you actually do. There's 77 messages, lessons there. There's tons of videos and audio that's downloadable and templates. But what we're talking about is interpretation of the controls. If you're interested in that, here it is on ConvoCourses. It's called the Security Controls and Documentation, and where I'll tell you about how to do the implementation statements, how to do plan of action and milestones. If, let's say, your organization doesn't have an incident response team, you'd want to probably do some kind of plan of action and milestone, and it goes into great detail about how to interpret it and what controls, what documents that are associated with it. That is what we're talking about here. And so that's it for this one, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a live tomorrow. I usually